Are you looking for a quick overview on how to set up your mastering chain for your Spotify submissions? Well, in this video, I'm going to give a quick high-level overview over the mastering chain that I've used to submit my latest song to Spotify. If you've been following my channel, then you know that I recently released my video where I went through the step-by-step process of how I mastered my latest lo-fi song. Now, unfortunately, I made a mistake. At the end of the video, when I did the A-B comparison, as it was pointed out by some viewers, I forgot to set the loudness level at parity. The master track will naturally be louder than my unprocessed mix, so it doesn't give an accurate comparison of the difference that our mastering made on the track. So for this video, I decided to give a quick overview of what plugins I've used. I'm not gonna talk about the settings. I'm just gonna walk each plugin one by one to say what I used. And at the end of this video, I'm gonna do a proper A-B comparison when we can listen to the processed and unprocessed mix at the same loudness. So if you've watched the full tutorial and are here because you wanna hear what the A-B comparison sounds like, you can jump into the chapter in this video. But if you haven't had a chance to watch the full 20-minute tutorial, this video is gonna be a quick overview of each and every plugin I've used to get my songs Spotify ready. Let's jump in. All right, so I opened up the project in FL Studio, and as you can see, I have all the stems loaded up. And for those who haven't had a chance to watch the full tutorial, this is what the unprocessed mix sounds like. So this is the final mix before all of our mastering settings. All right, so let's take a look at what I have on the master channel. So first thing we're gonna take a look at is Ozone. So I have Ozone 10 opened up. And the first thing in my mastering chain that I have is an EQ where I bump a little bit on the bottom end, I lift up a little bit on the high end and take out some of the muddy frequencies. Then I go into a multi-band compressor where I do some parallel compression on the signal. Next, I do some saturation with the Ozone Exciter. And again, this adds character to the sound as it's being processed through. And lastly, I use a dynamic EQ to pull back some of the high-end frequencies every time they cross a certain threshold. And I'm also bumping the bottom end every time a certain threshold is hit. So with Ozone on our master channel, let's take a look at what it's doing to our song. So this is toggled off. The next plugin in our mastering chain that I've added is for some mid-side saturation. So what I wanted to do is saturate the mono signal independently from the sides. So I use the Blackbox HG-2MS, the mid-side version from Plugin Alliance. And this is my favorite saturator by far. And here is what it does to my mix. So if I toggle it off, back on. So the next plugin that I have on my mastering chain after we do our mid-side saturation is some more mid-side EQing. So as you can see on my mid signal, I'm bumping up the sub frequencies. I'm rolling off some of the mud, and then I'm also bumping up some of the mids on the mid signal. Then on the sides, I'm using a high pass filter to cut off all the frequencies past a certain threshold. And I'm also using the air band to add some ear candy on the high end. And let's toggle this on and off and see what it sounds like. So this is with it off and with it on. The next plugin in our mastering chain is Soothe. So we have Soothe on, and I've used the preset called Less Mud on the master, and I tweaked it just to roll off a little bit lower on the bottom end. And this is essentially the resonance that it's removing from the signal. So for those who don't know what Soothe does dynamic resonance removal. So you can remove some of those annoying frequencies. So here I have it put on. This is what it's removing. So you can hear some of the mud on the bottom end. It's removing some of the annoying ones on the higher end, and altogether it sounds like this. The next plugin I added was the God Particle. So the God Particle, for those who are familiar with the plugin, is by Jason Joshua and Cradle. So I don't use it on every track, but on this specific track, I liked what it did to the overall sound. So this is what the mix sounds before and after. next plugin that I've added was Ozone Imager, and that's just for controlling the stereo image. So pulling back on some of the low end to make sure that it gets squeezed to mono, also widening a little bit of the high end just to give it a nice presence. And let's toggle this on and off. So we'll start with it bypassed and then we'll toggle it on. Lastly, I added the BX True Peak limiter. Again, this is not the most transparent limiter. I have other limiters that I tend to use on my mastering chain, but for a lo-fi track specifically, I wanted something that gives some character. So that's something that has a sound rather than being transparent. And I like the saturation that this limiter has when you roll it up to 30. So let's play it with this enabled and disabled. So now that we've heard what the track sounds like, let's disable all of the plugins on the mastering chain. And I've loaded the song in MetricAB. Now, last time I've used MetricAB, I forgot to click this loudness match, which I can do from here or here, which essentially brings the volume of both instances to parity. So that way we can have an accurate comparison of what changes we did to the song. So let me click this, let me click match. And now we're playing the unprocessed mix. And you can see it rolled off negative 8.2 decibels from our mastered track. So the reason it rolled off 8.2 decibels is because our limiter and all the processing that we've done increased the lufs of the track so much so that in order to get it to parity, to get them to sound the same, we had to roll off 8.2 decibels off of our processed mix. So now that we have the loudness matching, we can click here, loudness. We have the left, which is track A. This is going to come from FL Studio with the mastering chain disabled. So this is going to be our unprocessed mix. On the B side is going to be our master track lowered to match the same volume so we can hear the difference that our mastering chain made. So let's take a listen. So there it is. You can audibly hear the difference between the processed and unprocessed mix without being tricked by the loudness to give you the impression that it sounds better. Now, if I don't make that adjustment, just for those who want to hear, well, what does it sound like with the loudness? This is what it sounds like. So if I set this back to 0 and you want to hear the unprocessed with the louder processed mix, this is what it sounds like. So I hope this video was helpful. Again, for those who are wondering, well, what sort of changes does the mastering chain do beyond obviously getting your track louder? I hope this is clear for you. I hope you enjoyed the track. This song is called Serenity, and it will be out on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and all streaming services on February 21st. If you like the song, smash that like button, drop a comment, let me know what you thought. I love having these conversations. Again, I love the feedback. This is why I made the video, because of the feedback that was provided on the previous video. So thank you so much for watching. And as always, I hope this inspired you to go and make some music. Peace.